Hi, everybody. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Over 7,500 people have signed up to be with us, and we're so grateful that you came. So many of you I know are logging on after a super stressful snow day. I definitely had one. So thank you for choosing your time to spend this with one another. So for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Reshma Saujani. I'm the founder of Moms First, and tonight I'm going to be your MC and guide you through this conversation. We are here today because we are living in very dangerous and exhausting times. We are mothering or caregiving while our friends, coworkers, and children in our community are being disappeared, injured, or worse. We see videos on our phones of people just like us shot in the streets, and children just like our children used as bait, chased, tackled, and thrown into cars. It is overwhelming to simply exist right now. It's like we're rearranging the chairs on the deck chairs of the Titanic. And when we stand up and speak out, what happens to us? We're called an effing bitch. We are branded as a threat, not ICE, not broken systems, but us. According to some recent media narratives, the real danger is organized gangs of wine moms. Women who are speaking up, organizing, and refusing to stay quiet. It's meant to sound ridiculous because it is, but it's also not accidental. Because when women, and especially mothers, speak up, ridicule is often the first response, and violence is the second. And here's why tonight matters. It's really hard to fight something if we don't know why it's happening or how it's happened before. Recognizing historical patterns is critical to fighting back. Tonight is about decoding those patterns, understanding the cons that have been used over and over and over again to silence women and moms, to tell us to stand down and go back to the kitchen. You're going to hear from an incredible group of thinkers, organizers, and storytellers tonight, women who can help us name what's happening and point us to what comes next and what we can do now. Before we dive in, I want to thank our partners who made tonight possible. Culture House, Gloria's Foundation, the Meteor, Mom's Clean Air Force and EcoMadres, Mother Tongue, MoveOn, Red Wine and Blue, and the Wee Sweet. I'm so grateful for these partnerships and for this community. This is an educational and nonpartisan space. No parties, just an honest conversation about power and what happens when mothers refuse to disappear. We will have time at the end to answer a few questions, so please drop yours into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So let's get into it. I want to start with moms who are taking action in Minnesota and introduce Erin, Jennifer, JaNaé. Erin, Jennifer, and JaNaé. Erin May Quade is a Minnesota state senator, and she made history when she became the first out lesbian and the first Black mom elected to Minnesota Senate. Recently, she's been on the front lines of organizers taking a stand against ICE. Reverend Jennifer Ikoma-Motzko is a pastor at the Park Avenue United Methodist Church in Minneapolis, the church that's closest to where Renee Good was murdered. She's a fourth-generation Japanese American whose grandmother was interned during World War II. Minister JaNaé Bates Imari is the co-executive director of Faith in Minnesota, a coalition of faith communities in Minnesota. She's helping to lead prayer vigils and protests against ICE in Minneapolis. For all of you, tell us in the chat right now what small actions you're taking to support Minnesota right now. I want to start with Erin, Jennifer, and JaNaé. Can one of you start by giving us an update on what's happening on the ground in Minnesota after a devastating weekend of violence? Erin, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Thank you.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Erin May Quade. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a state senator in Minnesota. I'm in Apple Valley. I'm a suburban wine mom. I have a 3-year-old daughter. If you all just saw me looking down at my phone, it was actually because there's a group of us that drive immigrant moms in our community to their workplace and then home every day. And I just got a message saying, hey, I think we're in trouble. I think ICE is pulling us over.
Mm.
what is happening every day, like there is a lot of collective trauma happening in Minnesota right now. I think today was a day where I saw a lot of people having panic attacks for the first time, doubling down on their mutual aid, really checking in on their neighbors. But it is overwhelming what is happening in our state. There are 3,000 federal armed, masked, anonymous agents roaming our street. That is more than the 10 largest police departments combined. It is dangerous. Today in my community in the city of Apple Valley, they were stalking our elementary schools, posting up outside of elementary schools at pre-K dismissal times, at bus stops. Like it is directly affecting families and particularly moms. It's almost indescribable, and it sounds like a wartime diary from the 40s if I was really going to describe it. And there's really no way that you can avoid it. My best friend was with her son. He's 3, she's pregnant. They went to the children's theater on Saturday to do a class. They were walking to get coffee and donuts at Glamdal, and if they had left 4 minutes earlier, they would have seen Alex Preddy be executed in the streets. They just happened to not be there because they were a block away. It is impossible to avoid, even if you're not involved in the resistance or in mutual aid. It's just horrifying. And I know there's Minnesotans. I think I even have one constituent in this group. It is truly indescribable, and I appreciate the opportunity to even try.
Thank you, Senator, for your work. JaNaé, I see you nodding. Can you jump in?
Yeah, I mean the horror that we see in our streets every day because of what ICE agents are doing is very real. It's very widespread, and it is it's incredibly hard. Minnesota has gone through a series of really hard things. Most certainly, we all know that we were the place of the uprising after the murder of George Floyd. We are the state that had the first political assassination in this country in the last 50 years, with the murder of Melissa Hortman. And most certainly now we are ground zero for the most aggressive and violent immigration enforcement actions, operation, presumably, to take place in this history in the history of this country. And I say presumably because I want to be clear that while the federal government has tried to make this about immigration, we all know that it's not.
Yeah.
And it is why it was really important for us in Minnesota that we had on Friday, the Day of Truth and Freedom, where 75,000 Minnesotans poured into Arctic weather, -20 degrees, -50 wind chill, to stand up and to refuse that we are deserving of this, to stand in refusal of that, to stand united with one another, to declare that though there is an attempt to make Minnesota a test subject of what can be used in the rest of the country, that we will not allow it, and that we are united together. And so many of us did not go to work or school. We did not shop that day. There were a lot of us in fasting and prayer, a lot of beautiful marches and actions that took place across the state. Nearly 100 clergy were arrested at our airport in prayer.
Mm.
Um, and so many of them women and moms.
I
Uh,
saw that.
and so it is just like the outpouring of like love and community in the organizing that is happening, that Senator Erin McQuaid described. It is palatable. So even in the midst of like some of the most horrific violence and hardship that we're experiencing in the state, we have also seen the most dynamic amount of like love and community and or like organic organizing. I mean, that's like a weird thing to say because it's organizing takes work. But it's like people just deciding that we're going to be in it together. And the beauty of this, and I love that we're on this talking about like moms and moms who hang out and drink wine. And it's like it is really truly like regular normal people who are trying to care for themselves and care for their families who are stepping up. So the like even the story that this is about anti-ICE protesters, like honestly, if you live here, you're gonna be anti-ICE. It's not an activist
Yeah.
thing. It's not a
Yeah.
protest thing. It's you're
Yeah.
caring for your neighbor and your family.
Yeah. JaNaé, what you're saying is so powerful because moms always say to me, like, well, what can I do? I'm just a mom. And when you look and see what's happening in Minnesota, it is just everyday regular people. Reverend Jennifer, can you talk about again how your identity as a mother has been shaping your advocacy in this moment and as a pastor?
Hello, everyone. My name again is Jennifer. I use she, her pronouns. I am a mom who retired as clergy when I moved to this great state of Minnesota. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to work part-time. I'm going to still be a mom. I'm just going to take this part-time pastor role. And oh my, are we in it? And so for me as a mom, I don't feel I have the option to opt out. I wouldn't consider myself an activist, an organizer, but I am a mom and I'm a pastor that's called to teach people to love themselves, to love their neighbors as themselves.
Mm,
And so even in the craziness of what's happening, this whiplash of what Minister JaNaé said, we were tens of thousands of people strong in the streets, acts of love and kindness and protest and resistance. And then a day later, we saw the execution of Alex Preddy, another neighbor. And that whiplash is happening and it's real. And moms are being asked and parents are being asked to make sense of that for their children. They're being asked to continue the caregiving and the roles of parenting in the midst of this. So even as we're joining on this webinar, I was talking to Reshma this morning, and I was like, I can talk to you, but first I got to get my child off onto the bus today. Like life still goes on as a parent. We are still taking our kids to the bus stop with all these extra levels of scrutiny now. So there is parents organizing and moms especially, but all parents, we go to the bus stop, we stand at the bus stop, we make sure our kids and our neighbors' kids get on that bus safely. There are children of Somali descent and other vulnerable populations at my kids' bus stop, and I'm part of that rotation that stands there. And then yet a week ago, I thought, you know what? I am a non-white person. And I'm going to stand on this corner. And I know for a fact that ICE is racially profiling. We have
yep.
reports that ICE is going to neighbors or going to our neighbors, knocking on the door and say, can you point out where the Asians live on your block?
Using the children as shields.
Yes. And so I'm like, am I safe to, I carry a copy of my passport, but I still need to get my kid to the bus stop. So
Mm.
I go to the bus stop and I put on my clergy collar because I think for some reason, well, if I put on my clergy collar and ICE comes, they might be like, wait a minute. It just might be like, do some risk calculation. Do we really want to bother this person that is a clergy? And that's crazy. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't going to go to the hospital and visit
Yeah.
one of my congregants. I was going to the bus stop to drop off my kid and make sure that my kid and their fellow students were safe. And that is
Yeah.
just the reality of what we're seeing right now.
So there's a lot in the chat about where I want to close today is what can people do to help you in your work in Minnesota right now? What can we do?
I'll start and lift up standwithminnesota.com. It's a great
Okay.
place to go. You can donate money and it connects to a bunch of mutual aid organizations in Minnesota. There are going to be continued strikes across the country and participate in those. Check in on your fellow Minnesotans. That's hugely important. And really take in these stories. I would also encourage folks to organize now. We don't have a leader in Minnesota. This is a distributed organizing popped up organically in community. I mean, I got involved with this with like other moms in the neighborhood in early December. And so get in your groups now. There's so many roles that people will need: vetters, commuters, mutual aid, translators, patrollers. I mean, and the list goes on and on. I'm just naming a few. You're going to have to find your lane, but really, truly, the best way that you can help Minnesota, and I'll just end with this, is I have made a plea for the United States Senate not to just not vote for the DHS bill, but to stop business as normal. No votes, no procedural moves, nothing moving while this is happening to Minnesota, because what is happening is so abnormal that the rest of our government can't continue on. Whoever you represents you, please ask them to do that. And I
Thank you.
know Reverend Jennifer and JaNaé will have more.
Yeah, thank you. I want to let you close, Minister Imari.
I just want to second the Stand with Minnesota link to do some mutual aid, direct mutual aid to what's happening down on the ground. Also, if folks are looking to like what kind of actions they can take, similar to the ones that Senator Quade lifted up, you can find those at ICE Out Now. mn.com. There's hundreds of organizations, faith-based organizations, labor unions, small businesses who have come together and are very much updating that regularly. And there are lots of actions that folks can take nationwide to help support.
Thank you. I think everyone's calling for a general strike. I'd love a big economic strike. So I think what we saw y'all do in Minnesota is definitely a model for what we can do across the country.
Yes, I would love that. And it takes some real work.
Oh,
We
I
organized
know.
the heck out of that in
I
10
know.
days. And I think it's totally possible. And we should, if we're going to do it, like let's for real commit.
Right. Because some people only listen to the markets. You know what I mean?
That's
Hmm.
right. It was absolutely an action on corporations, especially Minnesota being home to some of the largest Fortune
Yep.
500 companies across the the world. And it's they have been deafening silent.
Yeah.
So it is time that they stand up with us.
Well, God bless you all. Thank you so much. We are here with you. We are praying for you. We are supporting you. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Um, I want to zoom out now from Minnesota to the broader context and the fight for women, families, and justice. And who better to help us understand our history than the one and the only Gloria Steinem, who I feel blessed to call a friend. Gloria, she needs no introduction. She's an icon, a journalist, an organizer who helped launch the modern feminist movement and has transformed the way America understands gender power and politics. Let's give some love for Gloria in the chat. I would love to tell us how Gloria's legacy has impacted your life. Gloria, how are you?
I'm fine, and I'm even finer now, having listened to the last, dialogue here. I'm always inspired by Minnesota ever since my friend Corinne Horrible, who I'm sure lots of listeners remember, taught us how to organize politically. We've been led by you.
Yeah. Well, Gloria, thinking about putting this call, we were really inspired by the consciousness raising circles in the 1970s and the movement for women's liberation. Can you tell us about like the history of those circles and why they might matter to us right now?
We were, of course, very influenced by the civil rights movement, by the anti-Vietnam War movement. Everything starts with smaller circles and then enlarges. So we, of course, mainly had access to our living rooms. So that was the beginning location of everything and connecting, as you are now, with women in other states and other countries. I had been living for a couple of years in India when I first got out of college and had been very inspired by the independence movement there. So that was part of my education too.
Yeah. Was there something specifically about India's independence movement that you feel like we could learn from today in thinking about how we rise up?
Well, the colonial rule had been very complete and very long, and controlled the railway, for instance, and many many institutions. So to take that on, I mean, we of course had been colonized at one point too, and as Chief Seattle always said, the only good thing that Europeans brought to this country was the horse. So we may have forgotten our history of colonialism, but it is part of us. And declaring our right to communally make our own decisions in this country is very much part of our uh, just our feelings about this country.
So we are clearly, Gloria, in a moment of severe backlash against women. And you've lived through these moments before. What can we learn from history and how we can move forward when it feels like progress is being dismantled before our very eyes?
Well, it depends what you're specifically talking about, I think. Um, whether it has to do with education or sex education or contraception or women's salaries, or, because we're probably most effective where we know the most and have the most experience. I mean, here in Manhattan, where I live, we are feel responsible for Donald Trump because he comes from here. So we're focused on trying to get rid of him. Right. Dump Trump buttons are all over people.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that is part of it. Um, but I think focusing on our own needs and reaching out to help people around us is key to everything. It's organic.
One of the most beautiful stories you always tell is about how I think how again that connection with people, and when you walk outside your door, you're the first thing you do is say hello to someone that you see and develop that connection. And ever since you told that story, I try to now do that every day, right? Because when we lose our connection, we lose our humanity, is what you
Mm.
taught me.
Yeah, and it's part of the pleasure of living in communities as you and I do, that we can actually talk to each other in addition to on screens like now, but actually in all five senses, whether it's the person who delivers your mail or it's your neighbor or whoever it is. And we are communal animals. We only experience what's it called? Oxytocin, I think. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, that allows us to feel community and to communicate with others when we are physically together. It's part of the reason that solitary confinement is the worst punishment everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Uh, because isolation is itself a punishment.
Yeah, and arguably that's kind of leading this disconnection that we have from one another, that we don't touch each other, feel each other, break bread with each other, see each other, and be in relationships because we're always on these devices is what's leading to so much of this division. Gloria, thank you so much. All of us, I speak for probably all the women on this chat. It's you are inspiration and you have taught us so much. And we are so grateful for your wisdom and for your legacy and for everything that you have fought for so we can be here. We stand on your shoulders every day.
Well, I hope you have historically recorded how important Minnesota in general and women in particular in Minnesota have been to us nationally. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gloria. God bless you.
Thank you.
So, Gloria helped us understand our history, and our next speaker is going to help us understand our culture at this moment. Ilana Glazer, who I'm proud to call a friend, is an activist and a comedian known for her humor and her sharp commentary on motherhood, politics, and culture. And she's not just a guest today, but she's part of something bigger for us at Moms First. I've talked to you about the importance of culture, and that's why at Moms First, we're working on a documentary about American motherhood and how we've been so divided and distracted, and what it would mean if we came together. Alana is one of the amazing speakers that we featured in our documentary. And part of this, I want to invite all of you to be associate producers of our film, because the only way we change things is when we tell our story, when mothers tell their story. So head over to momsfirst.us to learn more. Ilana, my friend,
Hi, Reshma.
I want to
Thank,
start just by thank you.
thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of this group, both the speakers and the people who are attending.
Thank you. I want to start by asking you, why did you want to be here with us today?
I needed this. I needed this when you asked me a week or 2 weeks ago, and then over the course of the weekend. I'm so grateful for your organizing, Reshma. You are a genius, and Moms First is a genius organization, both the content, but then the way that you operate and pull things off, and you're a leader that I trust.
I appreciate that. Well, listen, I have an incredible team, so it's not just me. It's the amazing women
Yes,
that are
Deborah,
always.
Molly, Gloria, Julie, Katie, Nina, Amanda. I wrote these names down
Oh,
for a
yes, you
reason.
did.
The whole team. I'm blown away.
Yes. Yeah, they're incredible. So tell me about how you're feeling right now.
I'm feeling so many things. The splitting of oneself that the leaders from Minnesota spoke to. I use they, she pronouns, and I'm the mother of a 4-year-old. And it feels absolutely psychotic to be in my life, in my body, and then in the world at large, in a way, to be in Minnesota, a part of my heart, to being of truly a global movement where we are seeing not only the rise of fascism, but also an oligarchy around the globe. I feel so split. And uh, I think connecting the dots, connecting the many communities, fighting for the same thing, which
Yep.
is a standard for basic human rights. Um, it's helping remind me of the very obvious but kind of worth stating pendulum swing that you were speaking to already. I'm not saying something new, but women and people of color and moms and working moms got too far for the
Yep.
minority in power. And we stood up. The rise of Black Lives Matter in 2020 was a multiracial coalition. And I think I really am so proud to be a millennial. I mean, we're standing on the shoulders. I mean, Gloria just spoke, and this is multi-generational, but this is the moment anyway. I'm proud to be a millennial, and this is this moment that we're stepping up, and they're pushing back against that,
So
against our
hard. So hard.
connectivity, against us seeing eye to eye. It's clear. It's clear. And yeah, go ahead, Reshma. Sorry.
It's no, we talk about this. I mean, we've had so much progress from the 1970s till 2016, and it's like they couldn't handle it. I keep thinking of when I was watching the execution of Renee Good, the way he said, fucking bitch. We've all heard,
Yes,
we've all been spoken to that way.
right.
We know what that meant.
That's right.
Like, how dare you?
Even,
And
even, yeah, she just her clear eyes, looking at him in the eyes. It wasn't even whatever, I'm not mad at you, man. Nothing. That's
nothing,
nothing.
nothing.
And
No.
I'm thinking, we had like culture points to talk about, but to bridge to that, Amy Poehler was a producer on Broad City, and I remember when Broad City was on TV, she was having her, patron saint mother moment of comedy moment in the press with Parks and Rec and just off SNL. And they were saying, how do you do it all, Amy? How do you do it all? And I remember her saying, pass. She's like, I don't want to do it all anymore. And I think back to that time 10, 15 years ago. And now we've gotten to this point where we've talked about postpartum depression. We also talk about the joy of motherhood. We talk about so many different levels. We're right there. And like I keep saying, don't forget coconuts. We were
Mm,
at coconuts in September. September 2024. It's January 2026. We were so close,
so close.
so
So
close.
close.
And I'm 38 years old, and I've been a comedian for 20 years. And I think back about Jay Leno and Bill Maher and even Letterman at times and whoever, these men talking bad about Amy Winehouse and Lindsay Lohan and the Olsen twins and making jokes about young women, 20-year-old women. And ha 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 ha, even if it was a cheap joke, ha ha, this laugh that we accepted. And we all knew the truth then. We all know this was like literal abuse happening at a national level. It's psycho. It's psycho. And then we took it back. There was this swing back. I mean, Amy's, one of my heroes, but the Amy, the Tina, Maye wig years at SNL. And Broad City, we were there, and they're pushing back, and we can get back. It's just like how abusive does this have to be? It's yeah, go ahead, Bresh. Sorry.
Do you feel though that part of because we said this, it's like when we get turned into the punchline, wine moms, childless cat ladies, trad wives, right? It's like who's it really trying to silence? It's trying to silence us, right? And so
That's right.
how do we is it part of this is why I wanted to do this with you, right? It's like this consciousness raising, like it's almost like a dog whistle. When you hear it, you're like, oh, I see what you're doing.
Yep. They're trying to embarrass us out of our passion, out of
Mm,
our
go girl. Yep.
values, out of our lived experience. We've all survived many different horrors, level of horrors, and we're connected through it. And they have no values. And I did this, I have a podcast called It's Open, and I recently had James Tallarico on.
I know,
And
I love him.
he's,
Yeah.
a well-known millennial Christian, true Christian. And in the conversation, we found something I needed, which was that these are not demons, these are not monsters, they're human beings. They're just truly disgusting human beings, violent, vile human beings, depraved, but they're human beings. They're flesh and blood, they're mortal. The billionaires too, not just the psychos in government, the billionaires too. And they want to shame us. The only way they feel, it seems to me, is through violence. And they want to shame us out of our joy, out of our beauty, out of our love. And I hate to like even be a comedian in this moment and reduce it to this, but I'm going to say it. This is like a fascist version of snapping your bra in high school. They want our attention, and the only way we'll pay attention to these people is by them violating us. And it's the only way they've ever known how to do it. And while I'm torn about the body that's following them, MAGA, whatever, first of all, I think it's being totally distorted, the reporting. I don't think that I can't. Our reality is being so systematically fractured by the 3 billionaires who own the algorithms. I don't know what's going on, but I can't imagine people are so happy with this who even voted for this
Yeah,
a third time.
they're not. And you see it in the poll numbers. You see it in like send in some other, send in another guy, right? Tamalan or whatever his name is to go there. You see it in him having the conversation with Waltz, right? You see his reality TV show's not playing out for him.
That's right.
I want to close by like what I respect about you so much is like you take your passion into action. How are you personally taking action in this moment and fighting back?
Okay, so here right now, I'm in community with you all. I'm feeling like I'm going to be able to sleep better tonight. Action really works. Part of it is uh, talking to my community, which Reshma and the team at Moms First is part of. And shout out to Indivisible as
Mhm.
they just are the national framework. And they're this umbrella organization for so many organizations to fall under. Um, I take great relief in knowing Indivisible's there. And I also want to say what we were talking about, Reshma, this weekend is breaks and where and when you can breaks from certainly from the algorithm, rest and joy when and where I can. And I know that's not possible for
No,
everybody.
thank you for because it's my size birthday and I'm in the middle of like a space party and I'm watching the murder of Alex Preddy. It was too much. And I'm texting you and I'm like, oh, like it was like, right. It's like we're constantly having to, and you feel guilty, right? Having that moment of celebration with you, but you need that because that's how they don't break you. That's how
And
they don't break.
they don't even have that because they've cut their humanity off so badly. We have that. And when we do create that space for some rest, some joy, some pleasure, that also adds to the reality of what the world is, which needs humanity, which needs our
Yes,
pleasure and our
yes.
existence.
All right, I'm getting that. Thank you, Alana. This was
Thanks,
really
Reshma.
powerful and
Thanks, everybody.
important. So grateful for you for being in this universe, in this struggle with me.
It's my honor.
Um, Thank you, Ilana, for helping us decode culture. Now we got two experts to go deeper into history, data, and economics. We got to be nerdy about what's happening around us. And that's why I'm so glad that Malaika Tubbs, who's a sociologist and an author, she examines motherhood, race, power in America. She's featured in our documentary. I talk about your books all the time, because they're so good. Emily Oster's a dear friend, economist, author who helps parents cut through these fear-based narratives and use data to make decisions about parenting and public policy and pregnancy. Everybody in the chat, please tell us some narratives you spotted that have been created to kind of evoke panic for moms. All right, Anna, okay, I really want you to go here. All right. You've written that motherhood has never actually been apolitical in America, even when we pretend that it is.
Mhm.
When moms are suddenly framed as a threat, what does history tell us about what's really happening at this moment?
Yeah, I think to answer that, I want to talk about one of the first mothers who was made fun of by the leaders of our nation, and that's Abigail Adams. When the founding fathers won the Revolutionary War and they were the underdogs, and no one was expecting them to win, they were very fearful that they were going to lose power in this nation because they were thinking of the other underdogs who might be fighting for their rights as well. Women, people who were enslaved, indigenous people. And Abigail Adams famously said, "Remember the ladies." And her husband mocked her. Other founding fathers mocked her. They said, "We know better than your feminine ways. We will not be following in the footprints of the French, for example. We do not want women to participate politically in the United States." And so they write the Constitution with that in mind. They want to build a republic of men. So this was not hidden. This was not an accident. This was very strategic and it was by design. So women are told the only role you're supposed to play is to be a mother and to reproduce the power of men. We know from that that they're clearly not including every woman and every man in their definition and in our Constitution. But this goes back to the beginning from 1776, from the signing of the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution. And then we have this nation where women are told you are less than, we don't want to hear from you, and we don't want you to participate politically. So our entire history in our nation can be summarized by saying there has always been a group of people who wanted to maintain this original social order where women are subjugated and where people of color are not included in our definition of what it is to be human. But then there's also been another group of people who have said, this is not enough for us. We have to fight for more. So you're going to see strategies throughout American history to try to silence this group that's saying we need to fight for more. And
Yep.
that so often is going to be mothers, white mothers, and especially mothers of color who are being completely excluded from humanity altogether. You're going to see multiple ways where you're going to make fun of them, where there are tropes and there are stereotypes, where there are jokes used against them, all the way to things like violence, like death, like punishment, to try to instill not only the mockery, not only this feeling of, am I supposed to speak or will I be made fun of, but also, will something happen to me as a result if I try to challenge this status quo?
Yeah. What's so powerful as I've nerded out about this is like it's the same cultural archetypes. Angels in the house were the OG trad wife. The flapper was the OG girl. It's the same trad wives, and it's the binary that's created to divide us because they actually know that it works, right? That if we're divided, we won't become free. Emily, in listening to Anna, what jumps out to you about these old patterns and how they show up, especially in the way that fear and ridicule gets used instead of evidence?
I think that all of these, so first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this, Reshma. I think one of the things that is a through line of all of this and a lot of what we're seeing now is the instilling of fear in many different ways to keep people focused on something that isn't rising up, basically. So, and I think one of the ways we're seeing that now is a series of narratives around, things that you're doing wrong in your parenting, which is the space that I'm often in. And I think at times that almost seems like it's used as a distraction. Look over here, worry about, you ruined your kid, you took Tylenol during
A
pregnancy.
feature, not a bug. A feature, not a bug.
Exactly. Like this is a thing. And now you are looking over here and thinking, oh my goodness, what are all the things that I have done wrong and should be afraid of? And then not being in a position to say, hey, I'm confident in what I'm doing and I'm able to resist on these other dimensions. And I think so much of what's come out in all across the administration is this kind of fear-based, sort of evidence-free blaming moms for everything that could possibly go wrong and keeping them distracted.
Yeah, Anna, these stereotypes have always played a role for Black mothers and marginalized moms. I think about like the welfare queen, right? And all of it's had massive implications on like Black maternal health, right? How do these kind of stories today echo our old stories, and why is it dangerous to treat them as like jokes or media noise?
Yeah, tropes and stereotypes are always used to dehumanize us, to keep us from accessing our power, and to blame us for any circumstance we are going through because of a societal wrong. So, in the history of Black womanhood in the United States, and when I spoke a little bit about the foundation of this nation, Black women have been seen as the trope or the foil, I'm sorry, to American patriarchy. We have been seen as those that are cast the furthest away from it, and therefore have constantly faced that dehumanization. So we've seen the Jezebel trope, for example, to blame black women for any sexual assault against us, to say this is you had this coming, this is something that you wanted. We've seen the matriarch trope that says that we emasculate our men, and this is why Black families are separated from each other, so that we're distracted from talking about a system that has attacked Black families from the foundation. We see the mammy trope that says Black women want to serve other people. Black women want to serve white families. They don't want to take care of their own families. We see it well with the welfare queen trope that Black women are just having children so that they can make money off of the government. All of this has been intentional. So when we notice any of these tropes, whether they seem like a small joke, like wine moms, for example, or we're going as far as saying welfare queen, Jezebel, matriarch, mammy, and anything else that's used to degrade Black women. And we're seeing, these AI pictures now where we're changing the way that Black women are being shown when they're being arrested to make them look weaker, to make them look like a joke. All of that is intentional and strategic. And it's really, though, from this knowledge of the power of Black women. So you have to remove the power of Black women as much as possible so that we are questioned, so that we are blamed, so that we're not taken seriously. But I will say Black women have always responded in the face of that, always knowing, hey, all of this
Right.
is made up. American patriarchy does not serve us. Because we've been cast the furthest away from it, we don't have any other option but to envision something beyond what's being offered to us. So we will not be defined by that. Thanks for your distraction, but we're going to keep moving
Right. Thanks for all
forward.
that noise over there, but we know what's up. You know,
Exactly. We're going to continue to see that right now with Black women.
you know, Emily, I think one of the things too that's interesting is like how these narratives don't just silence women, they redirect attention. I really
Yeah.
saw this as I was, filming the documentary. Every woman I spoke to, regardless of who she voted for, had a story to tell. And it was often a medical story about how an
Mm.
expert silenced her from what she knew was happening with her child or
Yeah.
herself. And we see this, quite frankly, with figures like RFK Jr., who they frame like rejecting, the consensus as something good moms know instinctively to do. Like, why is that argument powerful? And what's actually happening when like maternal identity gets positioned against evidence?
I think it's very powerful because for those of us who have children, we want to do the right thing. And I think that it is also the case that many times you have an instinct about something that you know a lot about your family. There are things that you believe and things that you understand to be true. And when that is sort of comes up against and somebody saying, well, you're just overreacting, like the
Right.
sort of trope of like the hysterical, like crazy mom. And then women feel not listened to. And that starts during pregnancy, it starts at birth, it starts particularly for Black women in maternity, but then it just continues and continues. And it is distracting, and it is distracting away from other things we could be doing. And I think that, I've talked a lot in the last, several, I guess 9, 10 months, 4, 5,000 years since RFK arrived, about all of the things that are sort of being weaponized to distract people and to cause us to think, what are the things that I'm doing wrong? What are the problems that I am creating, as opposed to what is true, which is you are not creating any problems. And much of what is being said about things like vaccines is just it's completely wrong. And I
Thank
think
you.
really, I will say it's this thing you said. It's not a bug. It's a feature. I think that's
Yeah.
really right. I do think on a lot of these dimensions, like keeping you interested and distracted by something crazy is actually kind of the point.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the thing what everyone's realized, like they're doing this on purpose. It's intentional. And
Yep.
I think, and like you said, like Black moms have always known this, right? And so I think it's important for us. That's why this session was so important. Having these conversations is so important because when we realized, oh, they were doing that in the 1800s, they were doing that in the 1920s. It almost like for me, it tempers down this sense that like, what the fuck is going on? Well, they've always done this. It's a
Yeah.
strategy, and we
Yeah.
can
If
and we'll
only
fight it.
Abigail Adams could be on the Zoom, you know?
Exactly. And I'll just add, for anyone who feels like this is new, that this is brand new, we've never been here before, this is the worst our nation has ever been, that's actually not the case. This is actually a continuance of the American story where you have these two groups, one that's trying to hold on tightly to that original social order, and the other that's trying to push it to a true democracy. And we can get there. And I think these moments that feel so alarming are actually evidence that what we've been doing is working. And this is not the time to let up, but actually to learn from those who have been committed to this for many, many decades.
Yep. And to like again, like win quicker. You know what I mean? Win quicker. Well, thank you for this hopeful and informative session. I want to shift from education to action with experts who are leading these national movements to organize moms and drive change. Katie Bethell is the executive director of MoveOn, leading one of the largest progressive advocacy organizations in the country, mobilizing millions. Shannon Watts is the founder of Moms Demand Action, one of the largest grassroots movements in America, mobilizing millions of moms to turn concern about gun violence into sustained action. Isabel González Whitaker is the vice president of Moms Clean Air Force, a community of over 1.6 million moms and dads that are united against air pollution and climate change. She's also leading EcoMadres. And Jackie Ross is the head of communication and media for Red, Wine, and Blue, an incredible community of diverse suburban moms fighting extremism. Y'all in the chat, tell me one action you are committing to after this call. All right, Katie. Last 10 minutes, I know you got a big call in 10 minutes. MoveOn has been a leader in digital organizing. How are you leveraging digital organizing right now in response to ICE? And can you tell us about the No Kings call tonight?
What people need to know about digital organizing is that that little voice in your head when you're clicking the button and saying, does this matter? I want to just put Ilana's words right back in front of you. That is them trying to shame you out of your power. Every single click that you do, every single action that you take matters. And this is a moment when we need all of those actions. Here are some examples. After Renee Good's death, we together were able to send 40,000 letters to Congress within 3 days, pushing about funding for ICE. And as a result of that and many other actions, we're actually starting to see the cards fall in perhaps stopping the funding for that horrible, horrible department. Yesterday, we came together to fund a banner, an ice out banner flying over the NFL's championship game. That kind of social proofing matters. And then tonight, we're hosting the largest Know Your Rights training in recent history. We believe we have over 100,000 people RSVP'd so far at moveon.org/eyes on ice. Come learn how to protect yourself and your neighbors, learn how to be involved. We would love to see you there.
Thank you, Katie. Shannon, so a lot of moms they care a lot, but they're just overwhelmed or unsure where to start. Like what's the smallest accessible action you could advise them to take?
So a few things really quickly. First, decide you've had enough. Tell yourself, tell other people that you're ready to get off the sidelines. Then think about what your abilities are. We don't all lead the same way, right? I had a background in communications. It's what helped me start Moms Demand Action, but perfect strangers from across the country brought me their skills in organizing, website development, fundraising, whatever it is. So maybe you're an organizer, maybe you're a writer, whatever it is, data entry, think about what you're good at and that will help you plug in. And then the last thing I would say is I meet so many women who don't think that they're leaders. And they say to me, oh, well, you're lucky you're a natural born leader. I'm not. I have severe ADHD. I'm an introvert. I was terrified of public speaking. I knew nothing about gun violence organizing or the legislative process, right? If I had waited until the right time, I still wouldn't have started Moms Demand Action. Just build the plane as you fly it and get started. It's the best next step.
Phenomenal advice. Isabel, connect the dots for us between climate change and the people being targeted by ICE, particularly Latinos. How can people who care about climate change take action in this moment?
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much, Reshma, for including us in this conversation. We stand in solidarity with Moms
Thank
First and
you.
all of these organizations. Um, I mean, first of all, climate justice and social injustice are completely interlinked. Specific to what we're seeing right now is this idea that global migration is some sort of anomaly when it's been around since time immemorial, and it's only going to get worse. And climate change is one of the root causes of that. I think I read a statistic recently that in 2020, 10 million children globally were displaced because of extreme weather events. They're anticipating over the next 30 years, 93 million children will be in need of migrating because of sea level rise, because of flooding, because of any number of extreme weather events caused by global warming and which is causing climate change. So we're very much here to add to the chorus of compassion as it relates to these communities that are being targeted, my community that's being targeted, because of what's oftentimes bringing people to our very shores, which are the same reasons why we historically have moved anywhere.
Yeah.
So these are
Yeah.
not siloed
Very,
issues.
they're very interlinked. I think people are really appreciating that perspective too, Isabel in the chat. Jackie, can you tell us about the work that Red, Wine, and Blue is doing, which has been around the country to mobilize moms in response to ICE? And the
Thank
letter
you,
that you
Reshma,
have
and
right
thank
now.
you.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you for including us tonight. Red, Wine, and Blue is a group of over 500,000 suburban women, and we organize locally in our communities. So we are especially a home for folks who are new to politics. Maybe there's a book ban in their community. Maybe they're getting involved because of the ICE raids. For whatever reason, we are a welcoming place for people who don't always consider themselves political. So when Fox News talks about organized gangs of wine moms, they're absolutely talking about Red, Wine, and Blue. So we have three actions right now that folks are taking in response to what's happening with ICE. The first is, and we cannot stress this enough, the Senate is actively debating the funding bill. So we, as an organization, have called for no additional funding for ICE in the DHS budget, and we have over 60,000 people that have sent letters and made calls to Congress just in the past couple of days to demand the same. The second thing is we have social media banks. For those of you who are not new to political advocacy, you might know about phone banks. This is kind of a modern take on that. As Ilana spoke to, it really does feel like the right wing owns the internet at times, but they do not. And the ICE raids in particular and the ICE murders we've actually seen folks speaking out against MAGA online who are not traditionally political. So there is hope. People are leaving. And they're posting about it online, and we want to encourage those sort of posts. So we get together, we share, we comment on positive and truthful social media posts to drown out the algorithms and favor the kind of content that we want to see. And the third thing is we do have distributed organizing through our Trouble Nation program. Someone earlier spoke about distributed organizing. So people find local groups in their community. Again, we're really focused on hyper local. We're talking school boards. We're talking about state legislature. We will be involved in the midterms this fall too. But if you want a place where you can not just attend a protest, but then after the fact make change in your community, we have Trouble Nation groups in all 50 states as well. So those three actions are where we're really focusing people right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, as I promised, I know we have 3 minutes left, and I promised Katie I would encourage people to go to the No Kings Call. But I just want to say thank you, and thank you to every single person who showed up. This chat has been like fire and so much love and
So
so much.
inspiring.
It's so inspiring.
So inspiring.
And like Shannon, everybody wants a national strike, so I guess some of us are getting on a call later tomorrow to talk about what that looks like. But I know so many of you have just been listening, been talking, been energized, and the wisdom that was on this call was just incredible. You are all badasses. I want to thank the amazing teams and partners who like jumped in and like made this possible. And of course, to the Moms First team, who put so much care into most of it. A lot of us are in New York, and it was a rough day with the kids not having school. So, and a lot of us got little ones. So I'm so grateful to all of you. So many of you I know are wondering what you can do to help in Minnesota. We're going to be emailing out a link to the full recording and a recap of all the links for action. Do something. I think as so many people said on this call today, do something. Every day you do something is like an act of resistance. I want you to know that tonight is just the beginning of Mom's first fight to change how culture treats American motherhood. We're planning an American Motherhood tour this summer. So for those of you who've been calling for a conference, an event, it's coming to you in all your cities. And part of how I would love for everybody in this call to get engaged in this fight for culture is to sign up to be an associate producer of our documentary this spring. It is free. Supporting this documentary is a concrete way of how we show that motherhood, it's by feature and it's not a bug. It's not our fault that it feels this way. It's by design. And so go to momsfirst.us and learn more, add your name to this film. I want to leave you with one closing thought that I've been thinking a lot about. No one is coming to save moms, but moms can save the nation. No one's coming to save us, but we're going to save this country together. So thank you all so much. Thank you.